Let's chant the Gatha on opening the sutras. This Dharma, incomparably profound and minutely subtle, is rarely encountered, even in hundreds of thousands of millions of ages. Now we see it, hear it, hold and maintain it. May we completely realize the true mind of all Buddhas. Okay, relax. Grab your favorite beverage, if you have one. For tonight, coming to us from Washington, D.C., he's baking bread and taking names, Robert Coho Epstein.
All right. Thank you, Yun-san. So I'd like to start tonight, and I'll be doing giving a few different quotes from different sources along the way. I'd like to start out with a quote from Un-san's favorite patriarch, Dogen. His famous formulation from the Genjo Koan, which I've always liked. To study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be actualized by myriad things. When actualized by the myriad things, your body and mind, as well as the bodies and minds of others, drop away. There's one more line to that, which I'll leave out for now. Now, my clunky extrapolation of this, I think, pretty elegant formulation. And who said that there are no koans in Soto Zen? There you go. If you look into the nature of self, you see that there's no discrete self to hold on to. In putting aside the notion of a separate self, everything you experience confirms the true nature of experience as an expression of mind. In this situation, the sense of a separate or discrete body and mind drop away, and there's no sense of a discrete, separate self and other. When you forget the self, the sense of body and mind drop away, invoking the formless nature of self and mind. Being actualized by myriad things suggests that inner and outer are fully continuous, with no break. And it's a kind of full statement of the path in practice. And that's just a sort of a framework for what follows, and there will be other echoes of this from other angles from other teachers. So now I'd like to follow that with one of my favorite koans. And this is a koan from the Book of Serenity, case 52. And I have two translations, so I'll read them both. The first one, I'm not sure who translated it, and the second one is by Cleary. So Zhao Shan asked the old student Day, the body of reality is like space. It responds to things, manifesting its forms, the way the moon appears in the water. How do you explain this responsiveness? Day said, it's like a donkey looking into a well. Zhao Shan answered and said, that's most of it, but not the whole thing. So Day asked him, what's it like for you? And Zhao Shan answered, it's like a well looking at a donkey. Now the second translation from Cleary. Kaoshan asked Elder Day, the Buddha's true reality body is like space. It manifests form in response to beings, like the moon in the water. How do you explain the principle of response? Day said, like a donkey looking in a well. Kaoshan said, you said a lot indeed, but you only said 80%. This translation has a more precise percentage. They said, "What about you, teacher?" Kaoshan said, "Like the well, looking at the donkey." I like the second translation. I like them both, but I like the second translation, not to be too nitpicking, but to say the well looking at the donkey rather than a well looking at a donkey. So from this point of view, things are not like solid objects that have permanent existence, but forms are like reflected objects in the water of the medium of experiencing, in the well of existence, you could say. So that's like the donkey looking into the well and seeing that the objects reflected there are not solid, but are reflected objects, reflected in her own seeing. But what about when we take the extra step of turning that watery view around, where form is verging on the formless and applying it to ourselves? That's like the well taking the view of the donkey and seeing that, taking that view of the donkey and seeing that the seer, the experiencer, is also just another evanescent object in the water of experience and not a solid experiencer, any more than the objects in the well are solid. And so the world becomes the well. The well opens up and everything is a reflection in the water. Taking an outside perspective to see our apparent self from the third person perspective can be very valuable. Taking the view from the well and looking back at our apparent self, the form self. When we take the outside perspective to look at the inside perspective that we normally operate from, looking at self from outside the self, what happens to inside and outside? They are temporarily reversed. We can spin around the fulcrum of inside and outside and see that they are exchangeable perspectives. And when we look at the donkey from the standpoint of the well, we are looking at the world of form from the standpoint of the formless. It's one thing to see that all of our experiences taking place in a kind of reflective reality in the mind, in which objects are changing and merging and are not as solid as they seem. But it's yet another more radical step to look at our own form that way and see it and all other experiences from the standpoint of the formless. This relates to what is called iko-hensho in Japanese, or turning the light of mind around to find or examine its source. It's also echoed in a kind of poetic and nice way in Hongji's directive to practice silent introspection, and in Hongji's lovely death poem, in which he echoes the idea of form verging on formlessness. And I just note in passing that Zen masters like to do this. They'll announce when they're going to die and then write their death and present their death poem, usually right on schedule. So Hongji wrote one of my favorite Zen poems: illusory dreams, phantom flowers, 67 years. A white bird vanishes in the mist. Autumn waters merge with the sky. Normally, our awareness is directed outwards to look at objects, turning the mind around in a kind of introspection. To find the source of the mind, we turn the attention away from objects and towards one's own mind, one's own source of experience. So the arrow of attention changes from outward to inward. But what standpoint is one taking when looking into experiencing instead of looking at objects? If we take the standpoint of the body and senses, then this is only halfway, or as Cao Dong put it, 80%. He was being generous. If we take the standpoint of the formless, then this is the well looking back at the donkey, as Zhao Shan points out, or Cao Shan. The monkey, yeah, that's me. The donkey, oneself, is just another form. So what is the well? Dogen mentions Iko Hensho, the turning back of the light of awareness, in the following phrase: Sube Karaku Iko Hensho no Taiho Ogaku Sebeshi. And hopefully there are no Japanese scholars in the room, which is translated by an old Usenet acquaintance, Takuji Seiji, and adjusted by me to make it a little smoother as: one should learn the stepping back procedure of turning the light around and looking back at the source of the mind. Huineng echoes this in a slightly more complicated way, but one that I find very intriguing when he says, little known statement of Huineng's, the succeeding thought should be aware of the spontaneous arising of the preceding thought. This is also a kind of silent introspection in which we can observe how thought forms that define reality for us arise from the mind source. When the current or succeeding thought is focused on the mode of arisal of the preceding thought, it is looking within and tracking the way that experience arises from the source of the mind. And this directs that introspective thought to the source of thought. Bodhidharma pointed out to Huike, the second Chinese patriarch, that the mind was actually formless and was not a thing. Bodhidharma said, take out your mind and show it to me, when Huike was suffering in mental distress, and I'll pacify it for you. Huike said, no matter how hard I search, I cannot find my mind. Bodhidharma replied, there, I have pacified it for you. If the mind is formless, how can it be disturbed? And he pointed Huike in the direction of that formless source. And Linji also acknowledged the formless nature of the mind when he said, another really intriguing, little-known statement, it is only that formless thing right before your eyes, clearly and brightly shining in isolation, that knows how to expound Dharma or listen to Dharma. This formless thing, he goes on to say, is the Dharma seal of all the Buddhas. It is your original mind. Linji also wrote in part of the verse, if you want to be free, get to know your real self. It has no form, no appearance, no root, no basis, no abode, but is lively and buoyant. The original idea of Iko Hensho, turning the mind around to experience its source, originally comes from Chan and was expressed in Chinese with two different phrases. And I acknowledge Tang Huyen, another old Usenet associate, for this information and translations. The first expression is Hui Guang Fan Zhao, and it's translated as returning the light to reflect backward. The second expression is Fan Ben Huan Yuan, translated as returning to the root and going back to the source. And again, I hope there are no Chinese scholars in the room. This turning around of the mind to look within is a key operation of Zen, but it also harkens all the way back to the jhanas, the deep samadhi states in Buddha's Pali teachings. The Buddha taught to go within to find the formless reality. But of course, when you go within to the formless, inner and outer become indistinguishable. If all is inner and there is no outer, where is in and out? The Buddha described a similar turning inward, translated here by Thanissaro Bhikkhu with a little adjustment by me, very minor. He regards whatever phenomena there are that are connected with form, feeling, perception, fabrications, and consciousness, the five skandhas, as inconstant, stressful, empty, and not self. He turns his mind away from those phenomena, and having done so, inclines his mind to the property of deathlessness. This is peace. This is exquisite. The pacification of all fabrications, the relinquishing of all acquisitions, the ending of craving, dispassion, cessation, unbinding. In all of these teachings, we have a kind of silent introspection in which one turns away from phenomena and looks within to the source of experience in the mind and in the formless. In all cases, the sense of a solid body, a solid self, and an inside-outside separation become blurred and indistinct, and the formless nature of the mind and experience begins to shine forth. In the case of the donkey looking at the well, we have the exquisite expression of seeing all form from the standpoint of the formless in the well, looking back at the donkey. To end again with the verse from the Genjo Koan of Dogen, and this time I'll include the final line of the quote, "To study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be actualized by the myriad things. When actualized by myriad things, your body and mind, as well as the bodies and minds of others, drop away. No trace of enlightenment remains, and this no trace continues endlessly." Thanks.
Thank you, Robert. So we'll go back and have another 15 minutes of seated meditation. chant the Heart Sutra. Mahaprajna Paramita Hridaya Sutra Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, when practicing deeply the Prajna Paramita, perceives that all five skandhas are empty and is saved from all suffering and distress. Shariputra, form does not differ from emptiness. Emptiness does not differ from form. That which is form is emptiness. That which is emptiness, form. The same is true of feelings, perceptions, impulses, consciousness. Shariputra, all dharmas are marked with emptiness. They do not appear or disappear, are not tainted or pure, do not increase or decrease. Therefore in emptiness, no form, no feelings, perceptions, impulses, consciousness, no eyes, no ears, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no color, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no object of mind, no realm of eyes, and so forth, until no realm of mind consciousness, no ignorance, and also no extinction of it, and so forth, until no old age and death, and also no extinction of them, no suffering, no origination, no stopping, no path, no cognition, also no attainment, with nothing to attain. The bodhisattva depends on Prajna Paramita, and the mind is no hindrance. Without any hindrance, no fears exist. Far apart from every perverted view, one dwells in nirvana. In the three worlds, all Buddhas depend on Prajna Paramita and attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Therefore know that Prajna Paramita is the great transcendent mantra, is the great bright mantra, is the supreme mantra, is the utmost mantra, which is able to relieve all suffering and is true, not false. So proclaim the Prajna Paramita mantra. Proclaim the mantra which says Gate Gate Para Gate Parasam Gate Bodhisvaha. Gate Gate Para Gate Parasam Gate Bodhisvaha. Gate Gate Para Gate Parasam Gate Bodhisvaha. We'll do our personal dedications of merit. Which I have to dig up here. Since I don't want to get those words wrong too. There we go. All sentient beings are one seamless body and pass quickly from birth to death. We remember those who cared for us and are gone, those who are ill, those who are at war, who are hungry, and who are in pain. May they heal and have peace. We especially would like to dedicate our service to Mike Gingy Wood, Lily. Would anyone care to add anything in?
Two additions, Mystery the cat and Jean-Jean's Prajna's dog, who has been ill.
Iris
Rock.
McDonald, Joanne and Bailey Sheridan.
Hangdall.
Rock.
All beings in the 10 directions, subject to the greed, hatred, and delusions of themselves and others. All Buddhas throughout space and time, all honored ones, Bodhisattva, Mahasattvas, wisdom beyond wisdom, Maha Prajna Paramita. Do our faith and practice vow. I will never retreat and will be firm in my mind in this correct Dharma. I will escape from the samsaric cycle of birth and death and definitely will see my original face. I will be sure to inherit the life of insight of the Buddha and save all sentient beings. Hangdall.
Infinite realms of light and dark convey the Buddha mind. Birds and trees and stars and we ourselves come forth in perfect harmony. We practice and recite this for all beings in grateful thanks to our many guides along the way.
Sentient beings are numberless. We vow to help them all. Delusions are countless. We vow to see through them all. Opportunities to awaken are infinite. We vow to embrace them all. The Buddha way is endless. We vow to embody it. Life and death are of supreme importance. Time passes swiftly by and opportunities to awaken are easily lost. Strive to realize your true nature. Do not squander your time by night or day. I'll extinguish the candles.